Let's meet the fighters and see who's ready to bring their best intellectual jabs to the ring. In the red corner, with a bold take and ready to throw down without fear, the former CMO at Coffee Meets Bagel, Delbert T. And in the blue corner, calm, confident, and always prepared to defend his views, the CEO and COO at Good Stuff Thailand, Jeremy Gia! And of course, every great fight needs a referee. Moderating the debate, please welcome VP of Brand Marketing at AppsFlyer, Ken Guter. All right, innovators, brace yourselves and let's get ready to rumble.
Wow. Mama Manila, are you ready to debate? Woo! Welcome to Mano-a-Mano, the ultimate marketing debate. I'm Ken Guter, I'm VP of Brand Marketing here at AppsFlyer, and I'm pumped to be here with you for this fast head-to-head debate between two brilliant marketing minds. So today, we're diving into one of the biggest tensions in marketing, creative versus performance, or should I say creative versus performance. We will debate over 7 bold statements, hear 2 powerful minds, but only one voice matters. You know whose? Do you know whose voice matters? Yours, the crowd. So you are the ones who are going to decide which side is actually right. So, you already met our debaters, right? But fun fact that you might have not known is that Delbert here was actually arrested for a marketing campaign that he led. He was. You can ask about it in the happy hour afterwards. And Jeremy here, so have you ever met a copywriter that cannot spell? Well, look at the career this guy built. Thank goodness we have ChatGPT today. So here's how it's gonna work. Each speaker will get 60 seconds, 1 minute to make their case on each and every statement, and then the other one will get 30 seconds to respond. And crowd, amazing crowd that you are, we want to hear what you think. So please, when you see a QR code, take out your phones and vote. We're not gonna say who won at the end, although I know Delbert here is very competitive. At least if I know the P&G mentality he came from. But yeah, when you see the QR code, please scan it and vote. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's start. All right, and we're starting with one that cuts straight to the core. The primary role of marketing is to drive sales, not to entertain or inspire. Jeremy, you're up first. Do you agree?
So it just dawned upon me that I'm actually in a room full of data people. So I'm on a losing side already. But I would say that the primary role of marketing is to drive sales. And you can do it in many ways, right? You can do it with a coupon. You can do it with a performance marketing tactical campaign. And all these are really good tactics to use. But I will ask you this. When was the last time you really remembered an ad? When was the last time you were loyal to a brand and you bought the brand and you invested in the brand? That matters. You know, that matters. Being entertaining, being inspiring matters.
Wow, Jeremy is all heart. Delbert, ready to contradict?
Sure thing.
Timer's up.
So I have to say I have home court advantage since I'm Filipino. So just saying. But let's go back to the question that he asked, right? When was the last time did you remember seeing an iconic, thought-provoking, entertaining ad? And then the next question is, what was the last thing you bought? You must have bought something yesterday, the day before, maybe even today. Were you entertained by the thing that you bought? No, right? You just bought it. You made the sale happen for this company. And at the end of the day, marketing's job is to drive that. If not, the company doesn't survive. It's dead. A business's purpose is to bring in the money. Full stop. It's not to entertain. If you want to be an entertainer, be an entertainer.
Wow. Okay. Jeremy, do you want to respond to that?
I would say that, marketing's role is to drive sales and it is to drive results. But if you're not going to be entertaining, no one's going to remember your brand.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I beg to differ. I'm sure lots of people here used Grab on the way here. Have you been entertained by Grab?
Woo, okay. Guys, it's time for you. Take out your phones, slide up. Do you believe marketing should focus primarily on driving sales rather than building a brand that inspires you for the long term? Gotcha. Whoosh. Only 34 votes. Keep on going.
Go, 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 go.
This is a volume game, guys. Look how many brand builders we have in this audience. Wow. Woo! I'm so happy to see that. 61% voting for inspiration and engagement.
But it might be all downhill from here for me.
Jeremy? Well done. Okay. Are you guys ready for round 2? So that was a nice warm-up. Round 2. Is AI making marketing more or less creative? Delbert, what's your take on this? Let's start the timer.
Well, creativity is all about all the ideas that you can ingest and then ultimately deciding on what you want to do. With AI, whatever you use, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Claude, whatever you use, there's just more ideas on the table. Some of them might be good, some of them might be bad. There's just more ideas on the table. But ultimately, it's still you. You decide. You're the decider of what you want to do. Do you take this idea, that idea, whether it's from a human, whether it's from an AI? What you are going to do ultimately rests on your shoulders because ultimately the accountability is on you. So I don't think that actually diminishes creativity. In fact, it supercharges creativity used in the right way.
Supercharging creativity with AI. Jeremy, what have you got to
I want to
say?
say I generated this response using ChatGPT. Just kidding, just kidding. So I'm super old school. Like I believe in the craft of things, right? Like I come from a generation where it is important to spend a couple of hours on a line. It is important to spend a couple of hours on the layout. It is important to be really scared meeting your creative director with ideas that you came up with. You spent 12 hours working on it. I'm old school that way. You know, the thing about AI that worries me is that people become lazy. People realize that, oh, this is the right way to do it. This is the only way to do it because it's the most efficient way to do it. And that worries me, right? Because where I think creativity really blossoms, right, is in the wrong. I feel like my teams who use AI, they don't understand what wrong is anymore. They only understand what right is.
Jeremy, you're the last generation who's going to claim this. Delbert, what have you got to say?
Since you're on the topic of old school, do you remember back in the day when you actually had a job called typesetting? So for those who are too young, it's people literally cutting with a knife and pasting things to create a layout, whether it's for a magazine, whether it's for a poster. Do you think the people using Photoshop are lazy?
Whoosh. Any response?
Yes. No, I'm kidding. Look, I think Delbert Rice, he drives a good point. I think with every generation, there's always going to be a technological advance. But I will say this, the act of conceptualizing, the act of creativity, right, it's still important to put in the hours.
Thank you, guys. My take, and I would argue that actually AI takes all the tedious work from us, leaving us room for creativity. What do you guys think? Let's start the Slido. Is AI making marketing more or less creative? Can you see the QR? More creative. 68%, 90 votes, 100 votes, and it's not changing. Wow. 70% says AI gets us more creative. I think we concluded this round. Thank you, audience.
1-1.
1-1.
Keeping
But
score.
the brief was that there's no winners and losers.
Yeah, that's
though,
right,
don't you
Del, but there are
remember?
no winners.
There's no prize at the end. Okay, round 3. Should data define success, or are there more factors we should consider when analyzing a campaign? Jeremy, you're up.
Okay. So look, I come from the agency side, right? So, I always dread the post-campaign analysis reports because it's almost like a report card of how you did, right?
It is.
And the truth is, I would say that any one campaign doesn't sit in isolation. It doesn't sit in isolation. It's just basically your brand basically saying something to the world at that one time. So then as marketers, you gotta ask yourself, like, do you focus on the now? Do you focus on the immediate results? Or do you focus on the long game? And where the long game lies is basically kind of looking at what your campaign did and learning from it, and then doing better at the next time. That's where I feel marketers who value the long game matter.
But can you learn without data? What do you have to say, Delbert?
Well, thank you, Ken, for making my point for me. How can you learn if you've not actually looked at the data? So I hear this all the time where, we're going to do a brand thing, brand campaign. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't measure it. And I think that's an excuse. Ultimately, if you think the way you're measuring it is too harsh, then the answer isn't don't measure it. Change how you measure. Is last click too hard? Then go 7-day view through, 30 days, 60-day. Do something that justifies your point of view, and don't just say it's a brand thing that gives all marketers a bad name.
From a person who built a subcategory of intentional dating, I have to say, I'm surprised by this point of view. Jeremy, any responses?
Well, I would say that, it is important. Look, I'm not going to argue that data isn't important, but I find that very often a campaign's success is just defined purely by the data, right? And it makes marketers very cautious about what to do next. That's dangerous. It's dangerous that you're using data to make decisions later on.
Certainly, being careful of vanity metrics.
Let me put the blame somewhere else. If marketers are cautious of doing something bold and crazy, it's not the data's fault, it's leadership's fault. Leadership should create the space for psychological safety, for you to try the right things.
Hats off. Slido, please. What do you think? Do you rely more on data or brand impact when judging a campaign's success? Wow. Vote, vote, vote. A whopping 86% say data and metrics are more important. 87%. We're pretty stable here. Can I score? 2-1. On to round 4. We're halfway through. Well done. We all know that feeling Jeremy talked about before, right? That when you see an ad that makes you feel something, that makes you like, think that the brand understands you. But what do you guys think? What should guide creative decisions more? Is it data again, or is it this gut feel that we get when we see a good piece of advertising? Delbert. Oh, sorry, you start.
So I'm gonna give a specific personal example or like work example. At Coffee Meets Bagel, one of the things that we did was we scaled content creation by using UGC. So we made tons of UGC from different creators. We did something extremely blasphemous to any marketer. We did not review the creative before we went live. We trusted in the brief, we trusted in the creator, because why did we do this? My sensibility as a marketer trained in P&G is when I see creative, I'm gonna judge it, a framework that we have, which is using your hand, is it distinctive, and all of those things. But guess what? Content today, entertaining content today, they don't follow a framework. There's all sorts of TikTok formats everywhere that you can't fit a framework in. So guess what? It's data.
In AppsFlyer, we call it let the talent do his thing, right? And don't judge the creative. What have you got to say about this, Jeremy?
I'm going to quote someone much smarter than me, I think. Data does a really good job at giving you information and knowledge of what has gone before. But it doesn't give you an understanding of what might happen later on. And, if we look to data to make creative decisions, right, we're always going to be looking at an idea through yesterday's lens. So as a marketer, I'm going to ask you, do you want to do that? Do you want to look at yesterday to make decisions for tomorrow?
So you would argue we all need agencies to predict the future. What have you got to say about that?
I don't care if it's yesterday, tomorrow, 10 years ago. If it makes money, it makes money.
Back to sales. Any last comment?
I've got no comment.
You pass. Okay. What do you guys think? Let's put on the Slido and move from the QR code. What should guide creative decisions more? Data or gut feel? Phones out, guys. It's very interesting to see what's happening in this crowd. We have a crowd of brand builders, what we saw before, that are super data-driven. I like that. So 72% say data should dictate creative decisions. 67%, it's changing a bit. But the overall picture is clear. That was round 4. Thank you, everyone. This next one might land hard, but round 5 is here. Which matters more to your brand today? Being consistent or showing, demonstrating innovation? Jeremy.
I'm going to say that a brand should be consistently surprising. The best brands have always figured out, right, what their belief systems are, and kind of always delivered consistently on how to be creative and surprising based on those systems. And if you don't do that, you're in danger of becoming consistently boring. Your work becomes the thing people want to skip or block. Brand consistency could mean that I recognize the brand, but I don't necessarily like it.
Brand attribution, that was always important. What do you have to say?
So what is a brand but the culmination of all the choices that you believe are right to sell the thing that you're trying to sell? If you deviate from that, you're essentially saying that the thing that I thought was going to sell is not going to sell. Then you have other problems. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't experiment. You should experiment, but you should experiment within the confines of what you know to have worked. So, let me use an iconic brand example. Nike. Nike took a big risk with Colin Kaepernick. And by the way, that's the last major ad campaign I remember, and that was 5 years ago. And I'm a marketing person. Tells you something. But if you think about it, that consistency is there even though it's so bold. It's all about Nike getting people to just do.
Is it me or both of you are saying consistency matters most?
I would say that consistency matters in your belief, but in execution, you should be surprising.
Okay. Do you agree with it?
If you're not surprising, does that mean it doesn't work?
What?
is surprising critical to it working? No, there's so many things that are not surprising that still work.
Let's see what the audience thinks. Slido, please. Which matters more to your brand today, consistency or creative innovation? I see you there. Take out your phones. We have 47, 61 people responding, 81. You can do better. So, 70% say innovation is more important than consistency. I'm really surprised. How are they going to attribute the ad to your brand? Okay. Still 68%. Looks like I'm a little bit convincing because it's changed a little bit after my remark. Okay, we'll conclude around 67% say that experimentation is key. Okay, I agree. Almost at the final bell. Round 6, everyone. Let's hear it. So, do you feel that marketers still control how audiences engage with content? Or is it all the work of the algorithms? Delbert, go, go, go.
What's new? If it's today, you have TikTok, Meta, Google owning the audience. Before, you had ABS-CBN, GMA, who owned the audience. What's new? There's always been an arbiter, a middleman who owned the audience. And what's the big thing that's different today is how to succeed within that platform that you're working with. Back then, with ABS-CBN, maybe you had to do activations, media integrations with Huawei. These days, with TikTok, with Meta, with the fast pace of the algorithm, you need to win through creative volume production. It's a different strategy. But guess what? At the end of the day, someone else owns the audience, not you. What's new?
Nothing new under the sun. Jeremy, what is your point of view?
I would say that the way to beat that is to demand attention. I mean, we've all heard of doom scrolling, and we all do it every night, right? Where we kind of scroll through content after content with the algorithms telling you or giving you what you want and what you want and what you want. As
God,
marketers,
I'm fighting this.
yeah, as marketers, do you want to be part of the algorithm, what the algorithm's serving you? Or do you want to demand attention? Do you want to create work that demands attention?
Jeremy here is saying marketing is still an attention game.
Do you think you can beat the algorithm with your creativity? Or do you want more dice rolls? Which one do you think is a more sustainable strategy?
Well, I'm asking you as a brand, what do you want?
That's my question.
What do you want?
What do you want, audience? Let's put the Slido on and scan these QRs. Do you feel that marketers still control how audiences engage with content? Scan, scan, scan. 47 people saying yes. Great creative can still cut through. 72%. I'm dying to know what the rest of the 300 people in the room are thinking. Okay, 72% say yes. Great creative still captures attention. Ready for the last round? Guys, are you ready for the last round? Okay. To the final round. Is building a long-term iconic brand still a relevant goal today for marketers? I know what my answer, but let's see what you think, Jeremy.
I would say that building, or at least having the ambition to build an iconic brand is even more important today. You know, whether we like to admit it, through the things that we wear, the subscriptions we make, everything that we buy, right? It gives the world a glimpse of who we are and what we do, right? So, if it means that building a brand, that it means building a brand people want to invest in, want to kind of be a part of, want to give a point of view on. And of course, I understand it's always a question of practicality. As marketers, you've got a finite budget. But if you're not investing some of your monies into building a brand, I think you're missing out. Because your competitors are always going to be able to beat you on tactics, but it's going to be very hard for them to take away your iconic status.
Delbert.
So let's talk about iconic brands. If I ask you guys what iconic brands come to mind, I'm sure all of you guys will give the same answers. Apple, I mentioned Nike. A P&G brand, Tide, maybe Gucci. But think about it. These brands, when were they made? When were they founded? Decades ago. Think about what iconic brands have been built in the last 10 years.
I heard
Sure,
TikTok from
sure.
the audience.
But think about it. Not much, but again, going back to my
Time's
Grab example.
up.
Oh, there was 26 seconds.
Go, Jeremy, go. Quick.
I would say Rome wasn't built in a day, and iconic brands aren't built in a year or 10 years. If you want to play the long game, that's what you do.
The point of a business is to make money. So as I was saying, is Grab an iconic brand? I don't think so, but they're fantastically successful. TikTok, someone mentioned, sure. Like I wouldn't call TikTok on the same level as Apple. Sure, it's a great brand, but fantastically successful.
For someone who claimed for innovation before, you're a very consistent person with your messaging, Delbert. It's all about the money. Okay, guys, last vote. I want to see over 300 votes here on the Slido. So take out your phones and tell us, is building a long-term iconic brand still a relevant goal today? Final question. 65 respondents. 84. Give me more. We're almost at 90% saying that it's more important than ever to cut through the clutter and build an iconic brand. No winners here. Okay. So, that was the last round. 90% say it's still a long-term goal to build an iconic brand. I tend to agree. And if there is one thing we learned here today is that the future of marketing isn't about choosing side. It's all about managing complexity, right? It's about mastering both data and creativity, performance and brand, long-term and short-term, consistency and innovation. So I want to say a huge thank you to both of you, Delbert and Jeremy.
Thank you, thank you.
And a biggest thanks to you guys in the crowd who made this debate amazing. Enjoy the rest of Mama Manila. We're still just getting started. Thank you.